Welcome back, everyone. Let us now proceed to the next session of the day entitled Seeing AI, Creating an Inclusive Culture. Moderating this session is Dashika Gnaneswaran, the head of Newsroom, Brand and Strategic Partnerships of Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC, in an interesting conversation with Saqib Shaikh, the Software Engineering Manager, Project Lead for Seeing AI at Microsoft. So over to you both.
I'm Saqib Shaikh. I lost my sight when I was 7, and shortly after that I went to a school for the blind, and that's where I was introduced to talking computers, and that really opened up a whole new world of opportunities. I joined Microsoft 10 years ago as a software engineer. I love making things which improve people's lives, and one of the things I've always dreamt of since I was at university was this idea of something that could tell you at any moment what's going on around you.
I think it's a man jumping in the air doing a trick on a skateboard.
I teamed up with like-minded engineers to make an app which lets you know who and what is around you. It's based on top of the Microsoft Intelligence APIs, which makes it so much easier to make this kind of thing. The app runs on smartphones, but also on the Pivot Head smart glasses. When you're talking to a bigger group, sometimes you can talk and there's no response, and you think, is everyone listening really well, or are they half asleep? And you never know.
I see two faces, 40-year-old man with a beard looking surprised, 20-year-old woman looking happy.
The app can describe the general age and gender of the people around me and what their emotions are, which is incredible. One of the things that's most useful about the app is the ability to read out text.
Hello, good afternoon. Here's your menu.
Great, thank you. I can use the app on my phone to take a picture of the menu, and it's going to guide me on how to take that correct photo.
Move camera to the bottom right and away from the document.
And then it'll recognize the text. Read me the headings.
I see appetizers, salads, paninis, pizzas, pastas.
Years ago, this was science fiction. I never thought it would be something that you could actually do, but artificial intelligence is improving at an ever faster rate, and I'm really excited to see where we can take this. As engineers, we're always standing on the shoulders of giants, building on top of what went before. And in this case, we've taken years of research from Microsoft Research to pull this off.
I think it's a young girl throwing an orange frisbee in the park.
For me, it's about taking that far-off dream and building it one step at a time. I think this is just the beginning.
Hello, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to Malaysia Tech Month. Wasn't that an amazing video? I'm Dashika, and I'll be your moderator for this session. I hope you enjoyed the conversation that we had earlier. And now we move on to a topic that is very, very close to my heart as well. Seeing AI, creating an inclusive workforce. And to speak about this topic, we have none other than Saqib Shaikh from Microsoft. So before we start, a very quick introduction on Saqib. Saqib has been a software engineer with Microsoft since 2006, and the tech lead for the Seeing AI project and AI research since 2015. Well, this internationally lauded project has been publicly launched by none other than Microsoft's CEO itself, Satya Nadella, in 2016. Saqib's work has been tremendously getting coverage across the globe. He has been making waves in the intersection of AI, inclusive design, basically asking the question, how can we create an intelligent machines or intelligent tools that enables us to do more? His quest nowadays is to create greater accessibility and inclusion, to level the playing field for everyone with the help of technology. So without further ado, I would like to cordially and officially introduce Saqib. Saqib, it's a pleasure speaking to you. It's a pleasure having you with us. I personally have enjoyed my conversations with you. The last time we spoke, I think, was a few years ago, but we covered about digital inclusion, we covered about accessibility, we spoke about future workforce, developer communities, so much, right? And I want to cover those topics today. But first up, tell us about your experience. Tell us about the Saqib Shaikh, who is much lauded for the Seeing AI project, and tell us how did that idea come about to create this Seeing AI app?
Thank you, Dashika, and thank you, everyone. It's such an honor to be back in Malaysia, albeit virtually this time. So yes, my journey has been an interesting one with so many opportunities, but the core of it has been this mission to empower people with disabilities to do more through the use of technology. And that's something that's been at my core ethos since I was quite young. I got into technology as a teenager when I realized that I like making things, but actually you can make things that really improve people's lives. And that stayed with me through my career until a few years back when we started Seeing AI. And artificial intelligence made several big strides due to advances in algorithms, in computational power and data. And this really opened up the world of opportunities. We saw speech recognition getting better. We saw image recognition getting better. And that's what enabled us to launch this iPhone app, Seeing AI. And the response we got was just phenomenal. This started as a hobby project. And then we had a hackathon in the company where anyone in the company could work on a new idea. And so many people came across, it became a bit of a mission across the company, joined us on this. And yeah, we launched this to the world. Then we had so many users. And even till today, I see this, my work is really a conversation between people with disabilities and the scientists at Microsoft. We talk to our customers and say, what are the problems in life? And we talk to the scientists and say, what are the solutions we can build? So I could talk about this for so much longer, but that is, in a summary, like the journey that I've been on and I'm still pursuing.
Right. No, that sounds amazing. And I read recently that basically Seeing AI app has helped visually impaired people with more than 10 million tasks. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, many tens of millions now. It's been phenomenal to see the adoption.
What are the latest developments within this application? What can this application do? And how is it helping people who are visually disabled as well?
As I say, it's a bit of a conversation. We keep talking to our customers and understanding what are the new frontiers for technology that unblock scenarios. And so we went from recognizing images to helping you recall memories in your photo gallery with ever better descriptions that artificial intelligence enables, to being able to feel a photo on a flat touchscreen by moving your finger around and hearing the different component objects within the image. We started recognizing handwriting and different currencies from around the world, and all the accuracy of reading text and so much more keeps getting better. But probably our latest enhancement that we've started working on is the exciting area of going from 2D to 3D. So if you're using the latest devices with a LiDAR, you can actually feel how far away things are. And you can hear what's around you in 3 dimensions. So you might hear the word chair coming from the chair itself, or hear a sound coming from the door so you can find it. So this is cutting edge technology that we're still experimenting with, but I hope this sort of gives you an idea of where we're going and some of the latest advances.
Totally, and no, that's really amazing. How widely is it used across the globe? Is it more used more in the US, in the European countries? How widely is it used in ASEAN, for example, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia? Do you see a good uptake of this application as well?
That's one nice thing, is that it's available around the world and has good adoption across the world. So maybe only half our users are in the USA, and then the other half are distributed across the world, but not just Europe, also, pretty much every continent.
Perfect. Saqib, I want to change gears a bit here and speak about digital inclusion and the role of technology in contributing to that, right? You had this vision, like at least 15 years ago, on the fact that you wanted to build this application to help people with disabilities. So there are concerns rising over digital inequality in our society and the challenge for some to access digital opportunities. And it's a topic that has been outlined in our United Nations 2030 sustainability goals as well. When it comes to digital inclusion, can you tell me from your thoughts, and of course your work at Microsoft as well, what are the roles that technology providers can play to overcome these challenges?
This is really, really important. We see that there is unfortunately too high unemployment or underemployment amongst people with disabilities. And there are so many factors to this, whether access to technology is just one of them. There are also societal norms and so on and so forth, which is partly why I believe, being someone with a disability who's visible on the world stage is so important. So thinking about the specifically technology, which again, just one slice, a key part of this is accessibility and inclusion, making sure that the systems we make as companies are inclusive of as many people as possible. The United Nations says there are 1 billion people with disabilities around the world. That's no small number. So I think the old-fashioned thought that disability is a niche that we will think about later, that just doesn't hold. Because on the internet, everyone's your customer. And this includes people with who are low vision or blind, who are deaf or hard of hearing. But actually, when you consider that there are temporary disabilities, like someone who's hurt their arm or leg, or situational disabilities, like someone who's in a loud environment or is just holding too much to open the door, suddenly you realize that actually, if you make things for one group of people with a particular type of disability, it's going to help everyone. So it makes good business sense. Include everyone. Do there's a lot of tutorials and educational material on how to do accessible software. But that is just a key. You really got to do that.
I totally agree with you, Saqib. I must tell you, I come from a family with disabilities myself. And I understand, and I understand where you're coming from. So my dad was, he was paralyzed, he was wheelchair bound, and this was about, say, 20 years ago. But, if there was technology and there was digital inclusion and in the thought for everyone to be able to contribute, and the fact that, accessibility and people with disabilities were not just a small number that we will consider about later, it could have made a difference in the lives of him and those who were similar like him. And I think that is where seeing AI is making a huge difference in the lives of the people who need this application more than ever. One thing that I've also noticed about Microsoft is about the cultural transformation and how it's encouraging inclusion and accessibility through the use of technology as well, and inclusive hiring. What can you share more with us about that as well?
Absolutely. But first, just touching on your previous point about your father, and I think this is just so key, that because someone acquires a disability, and to be honest, so many of us will over the course of our lives, you're still a full human being with so much capability, so much potential, that it's really important to remember that the person who suddenly acquired a disability is every bit the amazing person they were before. And if we don't make our systems accessible, it's a bit like we just put up a no entry sign, like you're not welcome here. But if you choose to make your software, your services, your environments accessible, you can suddenly open the door and say, welcome in. And that's just so key. Like, real inclusion is so important. And to your point at Microsoft, that's something I think the company realized, that we want to open our doors to all people with all different types of abilities. And we want to make our products accessible to everyone. And if you put those two things together, they go really well together, because one of the best ways of making sure your products and services are inclusive of everyone is to make your workforce diverse and inclusive of everyone. If you have people who are blind or hard of hearing or having physical limitations in your environment, just, in your corridors, your culture is going to be more inclusive, because they will speak up, they will talk to people, and the things you make will be better for so many more people. So inclusive hiring has been a real focus for Microsoft in recent years. And I think it really shows in our products as well.
Yeah, no, your Xbox and your keyboards that you all have been creating has showed that wonder as well. And how you're supporting people with multibilities, if I could call that as well. Tell us on your personal experience, right? What is how has technology helped you in your work and play on a daily basis?
Sometimes I think of this as, I am capable of so much, but the environment I'm in determines how much I can do right now. And my dream for technology is that I will have some AI, some little friend on my shoulder, whispering in my ear, which sort of closes that gap for each and every one of us between what I can do here and what I'm capable of doing. So if you think about my life, if I sit down at a computer without turning on Narrator or other software, I can't use it. It's just a piece of metal and plastic. But then through technology and the power of technology, I turn on, say, the Narrator feature or open a screen reader or whatever technology I need. Suddenly, I have access to all the information on the internet, as long as that site was made accessible. So that at a real level, this is how software and technology has suddenly enabled me to do so much. If that wasn't there, my goodness, I would not be able to do, almost anything in the online world. So, and that's just computers, but there's the phone in my pocket, there's the appliances in my house, and so on and so much more. So that's true for Seeing AI, which is one of the technologies I've helped them create over the years, but also many more that so many around the world have created to empower people to do more. So I love this about technology. It can really level the playing field and enable people to do so much more.
Thanks, Saqib. And I think one of the great works was the app Emma that Haiyan had created as well. And that's another superb one. And we actually have Haiyan with us next week to speak more about that as well. I want to change gears now and move on to developing the developer community, to creating more of these kinds of applications. Maybe you can share with us about, from a developer, from an engineer perspective, and the motivations to create solutions and applications similar to Seeing AI. What are the types of support that you probably need, or that we're not looking into now as a government, as a community, as a private sector, to further encourage creation of such solutions?
Yeah, that's a good question. You can take this from so many angles. If we think about business or government, we can say the policies you create can define how inclusive your environment are. Are you going to say that, you're going to make every bit of technology you create accessible to everyone? Are you going to say that everything you purchase from other people needs to be accessible? So these policies matter. And then going to developers, make sure your apps, your websites are accessible. And you can look on the internet and involve the community. Nothing about us without us is a common phrase in the community. So get people with disabilities involved. They'll be happy to provide feedback and testing. And then you also mentioned creating brand new solutions. So many of the great inventions in history, from the telephone to the touchscreen, from predictive text to speaking computers to speech recognition, these have come about because someone had a challenge and there was some inventor, some creator who wanted to work with them to find a solution. So if you're an app maker, a developer, then go and find those hard problems. Go and find people who have problems that really need solving. And we're so fortunate as developers these days to have these building blocks of AI where we can put them together to solve real problems and make the world a better place. So really encourage you to do that too. So whichever side you look at this from, we can really use our policies, our culture, and our abilities of our developers to improve people's lives and include everyone.
I want to deep dive a little bit about policies and regulations and culture also, as you mentioned, right? Maybe you can share with us what kind of how can we make it more accessible? What is exactly needed? What do you think would accelerate the creation of these basically these kind of tools and solutions?
You can take many of these things from a sort of a top-down or grassroots angle. And without going specific, you can definitely define the policies at the top, but you can also enable the people at the grassroots level by hiring more people. So you just have a more diverse workforce, as I said, by making sure that when you're creating, you're involving a true spectrum of your users. And in terms of culture, just maybe it's having people come and talk at your company, or just gaining awareness that people with disabilities really can do so much more than many people think. And so in that sense, it's really a lot about awareness and making sure that once people are thinking like this, then I think people will naturally find the solutions to make things more accessible and inclusive, because ultimately that's what we want to do. So education is probably the largest part of this.
Agreed. No, I totally agreed. And I want to touch something closer to home as well. Speaking about countries in ASEAN, for example, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, how do you, from your perspective, how do you see the growth of these kind of solution experts or developers, maybe in the short of next 3 years or so within this market?
Well, I'm not an expert at that market. Really, the big trend we've seen over several years now and continuing is the internet is really flattening access to information and technology. If you are sitting in Asia, then you can create the same apps. You have access to the same technology, the same courses. You can go and access that information, talk to the same users. And this is really liberating because it breaks down those geographic boundaries. And I think that's really exciting because we are starting to see that, the solutions are not all coming out of North America or Western Europe. And even more exciting, they're often tailored to the market. So often we will find that there are solutions which are very specific to your geography because the culture, the way of life is different. And so the solutions are different. And I always find that really exciting to see.
That's really good points. And you're right. I think one big thing that we all need to understand is the solution is available for everyone, right? It's globally accessible, if I could call it that way. It's just about us making sure that how we take that upon, maybe our developers can also add on to that to make it a more locally flavored application, if I may call it. Hey, Saqib, now I want to move on to another topic, which is very close to my heart as well, which is bridging the digital divide and providing an opportunity to contribute to the digital economy. how do we make all this assistive technologies existing and newly developed more affordable as well for those who are in need of it?
There are a lot of very positive trends here over the years where many assistive technologies are now built into the platforms like Windows or iOS or Android. And they're going from these specialized solutions to almost just preferences. Would you like your computer to read things out to you? Or would you like your phone to tell you when it can hear a certain thing? Or dictation is just standard. So that's a real exciting trend, that these things are in your platforms for free. And another exciting trend is open source. We're seeing more and more open source solutions, which means that developers around the world can contribute to these free solutions. So they are free in terms of cost, but they're also open in terms of anyone from around the world to modify and, for example, localize to the language or add other cultural nuances to. So having these built-in preferences, having open source, I think these are two trends which are really helping. But at the end of the day, there are some technologies which are just very expensive to create and therefore will be expensive. So then we need to look to other systems, perhaps from the government, to make those more affordable, especially to those on lower income, so that we can have everyone included. So we're seeing this good trend in terms of lowering the cost, but where we're not, then it can be government or other organizations which help bridge that commercial gap. And now once you have people using these technologies, then through education, they can be part of the digital online community, and we will bridge that divide over time.
Cool. And the current trend, as we're speaking about the trends, right? The current trend, especially with the pandemic that we're in now, the evolution and the rise of usage of technology for work, play, study, there is an opportunity for everyone to be mainstreamed into the digital economy. If there were 3 steps to accelerate the participation of people with disabilities into the digital economy, how would you break that down?
Wow, that's a big question. I think first I would just give a nod to the fact that the pandemic has hit so many people so hard. And people with disabilities have been really, around the world, have been very adversely affected by this. And I kind of want to draw a line under that and say that is a very real problem, but specifically focusing on this idea that the whole world has gone online and just focusing on that part, I think there's some very real positive outcomes as well. And you said 3 things. So I'm repeating myself here, but the things we can do is to make sure that because everything's online, we keep including everyone. Make your solutions accessible, make sure the assistive technology is available, and make sure we have the education for all. So in many ways, it's the same things we had before the pandemic, they're just even more important now.
Okay, cool. And if you could say in terms of the future workforce, right? So we're building the leaders of tomorrow, we're creating basically more technologically inclusive nations across the globe. And it's definitely drawing the attention of many individuals and many organizations. Where do you foresee the future of work with digital as well as technological capabilities, especially with people with disabilities?
So we hear a lot about the hybrid workplace these days. And in the pandemic, that often means some people will come to the office and some people won't. But we can actually think of this a different way. Hybrid workplace, inclusive workplace. What if we let everyone work the way that suits them? And this could be in terms of childcare, in terms of responsibilities at home. It could be in terms of someone with a disability having different energy levels at different times, about the assistance someone needs in person or virtually. And it can be in terms of the technology that someone needs, either on their computer when they're working remote, or in the office when they're there physically. And my team is sort of looking at many aspects of this. But really, I think this is an opportunity to reset and say, okay, everyone is different, everyone has been impacted, but let's come back stronger and allow everyone to work in the way that is best for them. It doesn't have to be 9 till 5, it doesn't have to be in the office. Can we be creative so that everyone is included, working where they want, where is right for them, in the way that is right for them? So yeah, I do see this real opportunity to use this difficult situation to reset, rethink, and include everyone.
You know, that's really nice. Reset, rethink, and make sure that we're including everyone, leaving no one behind. And what more, the 1 billion persons with disabilities that's living on our planet. So I think that's a very good sum up to that. Second, what's next for Seeing AI? Well, what's in the roadmap, if you could share with us?
Both in terms of Seeing AI and other AI for accessibility projects that we have, without any sort of specifics, I think for Seeing AI, it's very much, how do we keep talking to the community, finding out the challenges, and using the latest technology to close that gap between what someone is capable of and what their environment is allowing them to do. And as we find more and more situations in different parts of lives, can we bridge that gap by using new technologies? So there's a big element of societal change in education, but on top of that, we can use the technology to fill in that gap so that, again, include as many people as possible.
And they say, right, with great power comes great responsibility. You definitely have been a hero for many across the globe with your Seeing AI app, and I'm sure, you know, there's more success to come, and I look forward to following and basically being part of that milestone achievements and cheering you guys on. How does that make you feel? You know, the fact that you've actually enabled or given an opportunity for people who are visually impaired.
Wow, I never thought of it quite like that, but every day when I get out of bed, it's how can I help as many people as possible in as big a way as possible? And I just think as long as we keep our purpose in mind, that mission in mind, every day is like, how can we do the best we can to help people? And then, you know, I hope that, you know, good things will come out the other side.
Cool. Thank you so much, Saqib. This was great. Before we end our conversation, there's 3 things I want to just highlight from what we had spoken about and summarize this for everybody else. So basically, you had mentioned about how digital inclusion is important for every person and every organization when they're putting together any sort of plan, any sort of strategy. It's important to basically create that fundamental all-in approach. So the more people who play in the field, the more economically we can also contribute back to the nation's broader growth, as well as making sure that everyone has accessibility to technology. The second one, you also mentioned about digital policies and how what you create defines how accessibility and how accessible your tools are and your solutions are, involving a wide spectrum of users. And the third one is about culture, and the fact that when you think of the culture of inclusive culture, it also means globally, how are you helping people across the world and making it available to people everywhere at probably at an affordable cost, but also easy to use to ensure that everyone has the same playing field across the world as well. So I really thank you for being with us, Saqib. It was immensely joy for me to speak to you today. I continue with this conversation with you, and I continue to look forward to seeing the successes of the Seeing AI app and everything else that you will be creating, I'm sure, in the near future. Anything you want to add on before we end our conversation today?
Just thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure speaking with you, and yeah, just make all your products and services accessible, and let's have this mission to include everyone, regardless of their ability, and make a better world for everyone.
Thank you, Saqib. With this, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today at Malaysia Tech Month 2021. Signing off, myself and Saqib. We look forward to speaking to you more often. There is a packed, lined up schedule today and till the end of the month. Stay tuned with us. Yeah, signing off from MDEC. My name is Dashika. Speak to you guys soon. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, Dashika and Saqib, for that eye-opening conversation. I personally will get my friend in the Malaysian Association of the Blind to watch this recording later on. Tomorrow's session, we have at 4 p.m. discussion with YB Rasadiba Razi to talk about the disabled community. So excited to have something like you to touch on this early today, and maybe we'll bring it forward for tomorrow to all these communities. Insights beyond seeing with physical sight, inclusion being part of the culture, our global culture. Thank you again. Thank you both of you, Dashika and Saqib. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be moving on to our next session of the day. We'll be beginning at very shortly at 11 a.m. So do click join session and complete the survey at each of the sessions for us to serve you better. Okay, see you in a bit. Bye.